Coming up next on Arizona Horizon's Journalists Roundtable, we'll look at proposals to change Arizona's election system, and a judge rules that Corporation Commissioner Bob Stump's text messages can remain private. The Journalists Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon's Journalists Roundtable. I'm Ted Simons. Joining us tonight, Mary Jo Pitzel of the Arizona Republic, Howard Fisher of Capital Media Services, and Mike Sunnix of the Phoenix Business Journal. Two groups are combining efforts to push a pair of proposals that would fundamentally change Arizona's elections process. What are we talking about here, Mary Jo?
Well, we're talking about the effort to establish a top two primary or an open primary, which would get rid of partisan primaries, and another measure that would require disclosure of dark money contributions to independent expenditure groups.
And these are the same coalition of folks are getting together as one here?
Yes, it's called the Open and Honest Committee, and one is for disclosure, one is for elections, and they believe that these two things combined could really upend the way elections are conducted. I think that's a debatable point, which we can get into in a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the more far sweeping of these is obviously is the dark money. You know, ever since Citizens United, we've seen what's happened. And in fact, there was more money spent on the gubernatorial race last time by outside groups, by a factor of 2, versus what the candidates themselves spent. Question is, where did it come from? Was it APS? Was it Charlie Koch? And this is designed to say anybody who spends at least $10,000, you've got to disclose it. Well, I don't know where it came from. Well, go find out where it came from. Well, it came from this committee. Well, then that committee has to search it out too.
Basically the original source of the $10,000 or more donation.
Yeah. Now, the tricky part is enforcement. What Terry Goddard came up with was this idea, well, if you can't find it, you can't spend it. Now, I'm not sure whether that's legal. You know, Corey Langhofer, who's an attorney who represents some of these groups, said that becomes censorship and you can't do that. So count on the litigation on this.
Yeah, that's going to be, the backdrop is going to be Citizens United and what kind of, this is run afoul of the First Amendment and all these interpretations that we have out there now. And, you know, you're just kind of moving deck chairs around sometimes on these good government things. The wise guys are always wiser than the cops on these things, and so they'll move the money around.
Let me play wise guy here. Okay, $10,000 or more, we got to find the original source. Me and my buddies will find 100 people with $9,000 each, and no reporting.
Straw buyers, right? Just
yes.
like you see. Yeah, that's the problem. And all these things are well intended, all these campaign finance things since McCain and all these post-Watergate things. But you have a Supreme Court rulings that kind of go against that because of Citizens United. And then you have folks that if they're willing to break the rules or push the envelope on the rules, can get around these things.
Well, but the issue becomes, you're right. You know, but that's happening now. You know, when in 1986, prior to 1986, there was no limit on campaign donations. Then it became $200 for legislative. So you ended up with a bunch of bundled contributions. The chiropractors get all the chiropractors together, and the chiropractors lobbyists would say, here's a bunch of checks, Charlie. But the real big money, and we know where the big money is coming from when you've got groups spending $3 or $4 million. It's not the difference between 9 and 10,000. It's the difference between 4 million and 10,000.
And that, again, pushed by Terry Goddard for the most part.
Yes.
The other one, the top two, that is Chuck Coughlin, a Republican consultant. Chuck Coughlin, what's he doing involved with this?
Well, Chuck's involved with both the dark money and the top two primary. He's, I think, the treasurer for both of those campaigns. And these will be run as a joint campaign, but two separate questions on the ballot if they get on the ballot in November. You know, Chuck says, hey, you know, look, I've fought against Paul Johnson, who's pushing the top two primary. I've certainly fought against Terry Goddard, who's, you know, pushing the dark money thing. But we have common ground here. You know, our electoral system is broken. There's people don't know where the money's coming from, and regards the primary, the way primaries are set up right now, you know, independents can't vote unless they can, but it's not widely known. They want to make a more inclusive. They believe this will lead to a more inclusive election
It's
election
cumbersome,
process.
and that's the point. You know, if I'm a political independent, I can say ahead of the primary, and we're not talking presidential preference, which is off limits. I can say I'd like to vote the Republican ballot or the Democrat ballot. And I can be handed that. I can't get on the early voting list on a regular basis. I have to choose a party. And if you create a top two primary, everybody runs against everyone else. Look at what happens in the city of Phoenix.
Right.
You've got everybody running against everyone else, and then you have a runoff. Seems to work here. The question is, why shouldn't it work in the legislature?
Well, Paul Johnson's argument is that it'll produce more moderate folks, more folks in the center, because you'll have the top two come out of there and encourage independents to vote and stuff. But we don't know that's going to happen. We've had these other reforms out there, and they've had all types of unintended consequences. What happens when we have the equivalence of Donald Trump and Ted Cruz as the top two, or Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders? So those are the people who are energized sometimes. Right. So we're not sure that's going to happen. I think it's really interesting because there was a lot of bad blood between Terry Goddard and Chuck Coughlin in 2010. I was going to say that
to see those two at the same podium, I mean, like within a foot of each other, was revelatory.
Yes, well, politics makes strange bedfellows, doesn't it? And this is where they do see some common ground. Goddard, if you remember, ran for Secretary of State. Dark money was a big topic in that election in 2014. And when he lost, he said, I'm still going to push forward with this. So he's trying to make good on his promise. It took him about 18 months to come up with language because it is a thorny issue. And then I will say, like on the top two primary, yeah, you never know what the unintended consequences are. I think this will just lead to a new kind of strategizing. I mean, we had a case in California which has a top two primary where in a dominant Democratic district, the top two primary yielded to Republicans. And so one of them won out, one or the other of the Republicans won. Why did that happen? Because there were so many Democrats running for the ballot that the two Republicans there picked up most of the votes.
And that's a good point. Now, the last time this thing lost, a similar top two primary thing lost 2-1 last time, but that was because anyone could put anything as part of one of the reasons, as part of their party affiliation. This time you can put your party affiliation?
Well, it would be up to the local government. In other words, if the city of Phoenix decided you're going to run with a label, it would be the label you're registered with. Republican, Democrat, Green, Americans Elect, Libertarian. The city could also decide, or the state could also decide, we don't want labels and nobody gets a label there. That's not the only problem. Remember, the League of Women Voters, that radical group, that certainly wants to protect the electoral system, came out against it, saying we think it's actually going to hurt minor candidates. And that's going to be a real uphill fight for somebody like Paul Johnson, who's championing this.
Yeah, but the argument is that like a minor candidate, if by minor you mean someone who's, a member of the Green Party, if they got a lot of money, they can stake a claim. So it can work both ways.
But the other side of that is, yes, the minor party candidate, if they can survive the wide open primary, can get there. So you could have a Green and a Republican. But if you don't survive the primary, you're out. Whereas right now, the Green Party is guaranteed a slot on the ballot. So in November.
Well, not really. Not in Arizona.
Well, not in Arizona. Well, the Green Party has to qualify each time, or the Libertarian. But essentially, if you've got enough registrants, you get a spot on the ballot, and you get to compete with the Republicans and the Democrats.
This is one of the challenges they have. The parties are against it. Incumbents are against it. Even Democrats are against it because they're worried they might lose their seats. And voters are confused by this, and as we've talked about many times, when voters aren't sure about what it is, they vote no. But Paul is hoping that this is in some states, and it's going to be proposed in some others, that they can make this more of a national issue, maybe get some more money behind it this time, and have voter education more on their side instead of such an uphill fight.
Now, the bigger change, we go back to this issue of the dark money. Part of the reason this is occurring, as you may remember, and some of it occurred around this table, Michelle Reagan, when she was running for Secretary of State, had some dark money being used against her, said, we're going to do something about dark money. Well, suddenly in January, she took office and, we can't do that. It's unconstitutional. And then she has the chutzpah to go ahead and tell Clean Elections, I'm going to try to block you from dealing with that. So that's part of the reason that stands a much better chance, because apparently nobody wants to do anything about it at the Capitol.
226,000 signatures by early July. Will they get the signatures, do you think, just in just a thought out there? And, I mean, could this pass? I mean, especially either.
I suspect that they'll get the signatures. They've got a pretty professional organization. They're aiming to raise about $13 million. They got the first $1 million in the bank yesterday, so that will pay for a lot of circulators to go out there. Double up the petitions, and you might even double them up with the marijuana initiative. So they'll probably get the signatures. A lot then just depends on how much of an opposition campaign is mounted against both of these measures, and how much of a message Johnson and Goddard and their forces
Yeah,
put
they
out.
need a sugar daddy, like Jim Peterson did in those clean elections once. They need somebody to be able to spend money and run ads and show and send mailers to voters, which that's been the challenge for all these ballot measures.
And make sure it's a
especially
transparent sugar daddy. I mean, you can, no dark money on the anti-dark money.
And they have vowed that they will be transparent down to the last penny.
Now,
So we
there's
will
one
know
other
where-
thing that even if they get the signatures, they may not make the ballot, particularly with this dark money. The attorneys are poring over it. There's a constitutional rule says if you're going to amend the Constitution, you have to have a single subject. Now, that's been redefined over the years, as we know, by the Supreme Court. But there are arguments to be made that this does several things
Right.
having to do with state enforcement, having to do with limits and everything else. And I will be willing to bet you lunch and dinner that some attorney is going to be in court after July 6th challenging this to keep it from going on the
I
ballot.
don't know how they're going to be able to get, the argument to get conservatives to vote for this. The folks on the no side can say, well, these folks just don't like how elections turn out. They don't like all these conservatives getting elected, so they want to change the rules and screw you guys over. That's going to be a challenge for them to be able to get to kind of Republicans to vote for this.
One other point on the top two primary, in addition to opening it up to everybody in and compete and then go to a runoff, there's another provision that would level the playing field so that if you're for all candidates. So right now, an independent has a much higher hill to climb to get on the ballot. They've got to gather far more signatures than the Democrat, and far more signatures again than any Republican. This would set the same signature limit for everybody, regardless of your party affiliation or your lack of affiliation.
Okay, let's get moving here. We got a corporation commissioner. His text messages, according to a judge, who said not a single one of these text messages, which, again, a group that is funded by, all sorts of solar interests and these sorts of things. They're going against this corporation commissioner, saying he's texting candidates, he's texting utilities, dark money. We need to see what these are about. The judge says not a single one of those things were public domain.
Yeah, the special master said that it was a government phone, I believe, right? A cell phone that Bob Stump had, and we're not going to see those now. Now, this isn't over with. We'll probably see some more appeals and more questions on this. But this is another intersection of kind of these post-Watergate, Sunshine Law types things, Freedom of Information Act, and how they kind of run against technology sometimes, and whether text messages and emails fit in there, and what's privileged and what's privileged on a government phone. But it was interesting because if you look at national issues like Hillary Clinton's emails, things have been disclosed that are a government business, and this guy didn't find anything, which is kind of guffawing a few people.
Well, let's understand what we don't know is the global universe. We know that, as you mentioned, Bob Stump had a state-owned cell phone. He said he routinely deleted messages, tossed the phone when it wasn't working anymore, got a different cell phone. That's the one the state got a hold of. Tried to find ways technologically through perhaps the SIM card or something to find the old texts. We know, because it's a matter of public record, there were like 3,600 texts between Bob Stump and various people. Scott Musey of Free Enterprise Club, APS executives, some candidates that he was supporting. We don't know how many of these were actually recovered, so that's part of the problem. And as the question becomes, let's assume they could only recover 100, and they said, well, these were all, hey, honey, what do you want to do for dinner? So that leaves 3,500 that, what are the odds that none of these dealt with public business?
But absent having those, how
Exactly.
do you proceed?
That's the problem, is you prove a negative. Now, I know I talked to Dan Barr, who's the attorney for this group, and he said, well, you know what we do? Maybe we go in and we start taking depositions from everybody who was texted. And what did you say? What was this about? Was this really about going to the opera? Was this really about going to lunch? But it still raises some interesting questions. Barbara Lockwood, who's the APS executive, even if it was personal, why is the state utility regulator texting back and forth with somebody who is an executive of a utility that's regulated?
Judge says no evidence of improper communication. But there wasn't, this was not a well articulated, or at least a lengthily articulated.
No, it was very short.
Very quick, and not a lot of explanation.
Yeah, there's a lot of smoke there for a lot of people that suspect what might be going on or suspect corruption among the board members or what's going on in the relationship with APS. And so there's a lot of smoke there. And when you don't release anything, and maybe instead of a minority of them, and say here's what they are. Here's some official, perfunctory business, and we don't release anything. And when you have a ruling that's very short like this, it makes people kind of scratch their heads.
And there's one more piece in this. The retired judge didn't say which exemption made these things not private.
Right.
If these were private messages, even if they're on state-owned phone, they are private. Again, what do you want for dinner? There is a claim of what they sort of a legislative privilege that whatever we're doing is not subject to release. It's the same claim that we've got some state lawmakers claiming. I don't think there is such a thing, but if the judge is saying, well, no, this is privileged information,
Right.
that doesn't necessarily mean that they're all private.
We should mention that Bob Stump said the behavior of those going after these records and now having lost in court, he says the behavior shows, quote, a need for greater mental health funding in the United States.
Well, obviously he's been very stung by this, and he sees the judge's ruling as total vindication for what he's done. Case closed, let's move on.
All right, let's move on ourselves. The governor's budget plan, it's out there. I know everyone's kind of poring over certain aspects of it, everything from career and technical education to other things. What is the general reaction at the Capitol to what the governor proposed?
Well, I would say it's not what it was last year, when there was, in fact, the release of the budget was preceded by a news conference with the governor and the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate and the Appropriations Chairman, and they're all locking arms and saying, we got a good plan here, and we're moving forward, and we're going to do this quick. This year, you don't have that whole kumbaya feeling, and I think there's a sense in a fair number of quarters that the state's, he's been a little stingy. The state's sitting on a $600 million plus rainy day fund and a carry forward. I always forget what the carry forward.
$320 million carry forward, plus year to date, we're running $200 million ahead of projections.
It could be up to $600 million there,
Exactly.
without the rainy day fund.
Now there's this issue of, but it's not structurally balanced because we had borrowed money, done some little shell game in bookkeeping and all that stuff.
Well, Senate President Biggs was on this program saying, we still have $2 million of debt. We've mortgaged buildings. We've done all sorts of gimmicks out there. We're not in as good a shape as people think we are.
Well, that's true, but the question becomes, at what point do you say a certain level of debt, and I don't want to get into federal deficits, is acceptable, particularly if you're gutting some of the economic engines. The universities would tell you, wait, we got cut $99 million last year. Since the recession began, we've been cut like $470 million. You know how much they're getting back? $8.
Yeah.
It's a cool your jets budget. It tells the people that want to backfill the spending and increase spending for universities that got cut or other stuff that got cut in recent years. They don't get what they want, and there's no tax cut yet for those kind of meat eaters on the right. So it's in the middle. I think part of it is the education referendum. I think they just want to focus on that, and they don't want to have anything spoiling the pie on that one.
But somebody's already doing that. Diane Douglas gave her State of Education speech, and she said to the education committees in the House and Senate, look, this is all very nice, but that's only a 10-year plan, and it's like $300 a child. We have the 0.6 sales tax for education expires in 2021. That $600 million goes away. We need a constant, reliable source of funding, and this ain't it, folks.
And it seems as though of all the issues down there, and this is interesting, what we're hearing here most, and when I've done little things out in the community and stuff, career and technical education and JTEDs, they're making the biggest noise, it seems. What's going on with that?
Well, that's because there was a provision in the law last year that cut out funding, basically, for a lot of them. A lot of noise made saying, wait, if we don't get this restored, we're going to start closing down programs, this year, early in 2016. So the governor comes out with a plan, and he gives them back the money that was effectively cut, but with all these conditions, and it's 30 million, but you'll get it over 3 years, and pilot programs, and you've got to match, and
you've got to find a business that wants to work with you, and all these. And
you have to apply for you have to apply and be screened by the governor's office for this.
And is this now? Are lawmakers also wondering about this?
Oh, I think they have a different idea. In fact, this afternoon, Senator Don Shooter, who's from Yuma, introduced a bill with 71 co-sponsors. Now remember, there are only 90 lawmakers, undoing the previously enacted 30 million cuts. Now, he recognizes that there's some negotiations to go on with the governor's office and with Andy Biggs, who's been a critic of some of the JTED. And he said, look, we'll put in some more transparency. We'll make sure that these are truly career and technical education programs that need the extra money, because teaching welding, teaching auto mechanics, you have expensive equipment, which is why they're getting the extra funding. And we're not doing it to create more journalism grads.
And again, we're talking career and technical education. JTEDs are joint technical education districts here. They have shown quite a bit of success. It would seem to be something that you would want to celebrate.
Yeah, the chambers of commerce, it's an issue that your regular voters can kind of understand. You saw during the recession, you had all these construction guys, manufacturing jobs go away, and these are aimed at like retraining people and giving adults in particular, or folks or kids that aren't going to a four-year school, a chance at a vocational type job or an industrial type job. And you would think kind of both parties, and including the chambers, would have support for this. And I think what kind of galvanized this was the fact that it's kind of an easy issue for your regular voters to understand. They're going to shut these things down. You have a career school and vocational program where kids or adults go there and train, and this is going to go away with these cuts. So I think it's a little easier to digest for folks.
So I suspect your question is then, if these are so popular, why not restore the funding?
Well, yes.
And I think, to go back to Mike's point about this being a cool your jets kind of budget, I mean, the governor, he wants to move things forward, but sort of putting on the brakes at the same time. So we'll give him a little bit. I'm gonna try to show that I care about this, but I just cannot in good budgetary conscience, do it the way that people want it.
And the difference, that $20 million a year difference, could be the yet to be seen tax cut. Governor said, I'm going to do a tax cut. How much, Governor? Oh, I don't know. We're going to work that out. For whom?
Is that tax cut going to be seen before the Prop 123 vote?
I think it has to be, given that they'd like to be out of here by May 17th. He says, we're going to negotiate it in transparency. And Daniel Scarpinato, the governor's press aide, said the same thing today. I think I know the transparency. It's the governor and the Senate president, the House Speaker sitting in the room and saying, oh, what do we need to do this? So you'll excuse my skepticism on this transparency for this tax cut.
No, the transparency most likely will be when they bring out the bill and they've got all the votes lined up and they take the votes in
Hey,
public.
look, it's transparent.
Another kind of a noise-making procedure down here is a bill that the state would pay for concealed weapons training.
Ted, we want more people to carry concealed weapons and to have the training. Now, look, here's the thing. You can carry a concealed weapon now, if you're an adult, without any sort of special training. There's a certain advantage to having a CCW permit. You can bring your weapon into a bar, and you have to agree not to drink. There's reciprocity with other states. There are about 251,000 people who have gone through this. Steve Montenegro, who's the House Majority Leader, said, we'd like to get more people trained, so we're going to pay for up to $80 for each person to get that CCW training. Well, let's do the math on this. There are probably 3 million adults in Arizona who are eligible for that, times $80. All of a sudden you're looking at $240 million. Maybe that's the tax cut the governor has in mind.
Can you say all fuels?
It's an intersection of two things they love down there. The Republicans love down there: tax cuts and guns. So it's a marriage made in heaven for them.
Is there any idea just to go back like pre-2010 and just require the training period?
There's no appetite
There's
for
no
that.
appetite for that.
Well, here's the other thing. What's interesting is, out of the 251,000 people, 80,000 of them from other states who want the reciprocity. And the reason they come here is our training is so minimal in comparison to other states. Do you know which end of the gun fires? You can pass the background
He's
check.
a tourism driver.
Yeah.
You know?
Ooh, I like that. I
Is that
like
what that is? Yeah. Well, they need some help there, the tourism budgets also. All right, before we go, Howie, I promised you this. It's another marijuana thing. Lovable Jay Lawrence from Fountain Hills now, a lawmaker from Fountain Hills, had an idea that too many folks were getting marijuana from these homeopaths and the chiropractors and these sorts of kinds of things. So he drops a bill. Now he's undropped it.
What happened is, we've got about 80,000 plus people who have medical marijuana cards that allow them to buy 2.5 ounces of the drug every 2 weeks. Something like 87% of these were issued by naturopaths. Now, what makes it all the more alarming is there's only like 800 naturopaths in the state versus, let's say, 25,000 MDs and DOs. And his feeling was, look, these guys are just coming in saying to the naturopath, ooh, my head hurts, give me a joint. And so he introduced a bill to say we're going to take the naturopaths out of it, and the homeopaths, who don't do quite as many. Well, he's come to find out that last year, amid these concerns, they passed a bill that says you now need to look at the medical records of anybody that you have. You now need to make sure that the medical records match. And so what he did today is he said, you know, Howie, I was wrong, and I got hooked.
So, is that what he said? Did he say, you know, Howie? Is that what he said before he pulled the?
Pretty much. And he also said, when I first wrote the story, after I first wrote the story 2 weeks ago, he said, I also got a couple of hundred phone calls. But he said, I do believe that people really need the drugs.
Very quickly, I got 30 seconds left here. Is this an example of a lawmaker who should have done his homework, or a lawmaker who realized he made a mistake and it was big enough to say, I goofed, I'm changing my mind?
Yeah, maybe a little of both, but you get credit for politicians saying, I goofed and I changed my mind.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in this day and age, someone who says, I'm going to change is almost
And better to pull your bill than to have it be voted down by, in committee, and by your own colleagues.
Well, we had a bill last year, the service dog bill, that the
service
sponsor
dogs.
voted against.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Did they say, you know, Howie, I think I'm going to vote against my own bill? Is that what they said?
That happens.
All right. Monday on Arizona Horizon, learn about the importance of after-school science programs for kids, and we'll look at efforts to learn more about homeless families in Maricopa County. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great weekend.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.